there, everyone. Thor here. I just saw Godzilla Minus One. It's the first Godzilla movie I've seen since Godzilla 2000 in theaters, which was just a reaction to Godzilla 98, which we all know how that went. This is the first Japanese movie made since Shin Godzilla. Does it live up to Shin Godzilla? Does it go a different direction? This is going to be a spoiler-free review, so let's get into it. So yeah, Godzilla Minus One. I think it's heavily inspired by the idea of Shin Godzilla, but it's definitely its own origin story. I think this is like, I'm not going to call it a remake of the original, but it's very similar idea. Godzilla is a force to be reckoned with. They don't show him too much. You see him in the beginning. It's got a great intro. Godzilla's definitely like in an adolescent or like a childlike state, and then he grows as the movie goes, kind of like how Shin Godzilla adapted. There's a more focused human story than there was in Shin Godzilla, but they made characters you care about. That was done really well. Can't really name the last time that's been done in a Godzilla movie. This movie takes place right after World War II, just kind of when Japan gave up to the Allied powers and they had to decommission their weapons. So they don't have too much, but the beginning of the movie is towards the end of the war and you get a glimpse at the young Godzilla. The main character is traumatized by his experience with Godzilla and tries to rebuild his life, but he's struggling with the war with Godzilla. So it's got a great like character development, great story with them. And you're invested in these characters, and Godzilla is just this force. I mean, he's huge. He's very much CG in here, and it looks mostly good. And they show him during the day, which, you know, they don't always do that. It doesn't always work as well when they do that, but looks pretty good. I don't think it had the budget that the legendary films do. They showed him during the day, so I'll give him props for that. And some of the effects were cool. Ideas from Shin Godzilla, though, he's got a little bit of a regenerative power, but he's not as invulnerable as Shin Godzilla. And this definitely has a social commentary element like Shin Godzilla, but it's not as much. They definitely took influence from a lot of different movies. There's a segment where they're on a boat and it's very Jaws-like, and the crew's like kind of, you know, building their friendship and facing this unknown monster, and then they face it and it's we need a bigger boat situation pretty much, but turn that up to 11. And Godzilla just keeps getting bigger, he keeps getting stronger. He's just on a war path to Tokyo, and they're just trying to stop it. They don't really have a military. Again, this kind of goes with the idea of Shin Godzilla. I'm not going to dive too heavily into that, but the people have to come together and figure out a solution, and they do their best. It's an interesting idea. I thought they're going to bring back the oxygen destroyer, but they don't do that. They go a different route, which I thought was interesting. A lot of things that happened towards the end I kind of predicted, but it still was really, really cool to see on screen. Again, Godzilla looks great. He's scarier in this one. This is a dark, heavy movie, so I mean, I wouldn't probably bring like kids to it. It's not like that type of Godzilla movie. It's not like a fun monster movie. It's definitely like more like the original of Fallout after the nuclear bombs, and Godzilla represents that again. He leaves radiation. Where he swims, deep sea fish like show up dead. He leaves radiation everywhere. They have to like close off areas where he's been. And his atomic breath is probably the most intimidating in any of the movies. I mean, it's like a nuke going off. It just decimates the city. He's got to charge it up. It's kind of cool when he charges it up. And it's brutal. They definitely left the door open for some sequels. I hope there's more in this series. We didn't get more of Shin Godzilla, unfortunately. Kind of got that left on a cliffhanger. This one is as well, but I'm sure they'll follow this up. They'll probably bring more monsters into it. Who knows? What they'll use a lot of World War II era like ships and planes, and I don't know if they built those props up or, you know, if they had like deconditioned models, but they look really good. I used to do model planes with my dad, and I recognized a few of the fighters, and the one at the end was someone I've definitely painted before, at least the concept of it. It's 2 hours, but I don't know if there's much you can cut out. I mean, it's a great Godzilla movie. Different than what you get from the legendary MonsterVerse. So I say definitely check it out. By the way, in theaters, it's all subtitles, so just be prepared for that. I'm not like it needs to be subtitles or dub or whatever. I get used to dubs. I grew up watching the dubs of Godzilla, so I'm kind of used to it. I know subs can be better. The American version of Godzilla is not nearly... The original Godzilla is not nearly as good as the Japanese version. If you've never watched the Japanese version subtitles, 100% recommend checking out that version, but it's a lot darker and more harsher than the Americanized version. They had like a newscaster calling out Godzilla does, and I think that was kind of a tribute or whatever to the Americanized Godzilla. I think some of the lines are the same. I'd have to double check it. There's a lot of inspiration, like I said. I think this is heavily inspired by the success and what worked in Shin Godzilla. Godzilla -1, I say definitely go see it in the theater if you can. It's what I'm buying on Blu-ray when it comes out. I'll see you in the next one. Thor out.